Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Trent. This is Rams Talk. Thank you for joining in. Week 4, Rams host Cardinals. Rams will beat Cardinals. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not worried. Not worried about this game. Now, if you are new to the channel, please subscribe. Please don't jump on board the Rams Talk train for all the legacy and even people who just subscribed. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. We've got the comment section really blowing up now. I'm sure this is just a golden moment for Rams fans right now. We're back to 2018. We're back to the high flying Rams. I mean, this is even kind of greatest show on turf thus far with the numbers being put up. So I think that, just cherish it, just enjoy it because, just like the greatest show on turf, it went away. Dark time. So right now, just number one, enjoy this. Now the Rams come into this contest with an all-time record of 45-38-2 versus the Cardinals. So one of the teams that we do have an all-time winning record against. And obviously, I think everyone knows this. The Rams are 8-0 in the Sean McVay era. And even, I think, 4-0 versus Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. So we have the SoFi advantage in this game. We own the Cardinals. We're not just the big brother. We are the bully. We are the bully of the little brother. So, I think that, the Cardinals are 3-0. They're a good team. There's a lot of talent on this team. Don't get me wrong, okay? I really don't want to take too much away from the Cardinals, but I just think this really speaks to where the Rams are at. The Cardinals can beat the Rams. Don't get me wrong. The Jets beat the Rams last year. So anything is possible, okay? I'm not saying the Cardinals are the Jets, but you know what I mean. I just feel like I have the confidence of Rams fans. I'm sure with the last 8 matchups, the 4 matchups in particular, Arizona is a missed chip shot field goal in the Minnesota game away from being 2-1. They also played the Jacksonville Jaguars, beat them. But I watched that game, and Jacksonville was winning into the third quarter and halfway through the third quarter. So that wasn't just like you look at the box score and you're like, oh wow, the Cardinals really put them away. But no, they didn't. I mean, I think they had 7 points maybe in the first half, or even I don't even know. It was they weren't that great. But my one takeaway really from that game, Arizona versus Jacksonville, was Kliff Kingsbury needs to wear tape over his nipples. I mean, seriously, we know you work out and you're wearing a tight shirt, but come on, man, just some self-awareness right there. No one wants to see that, okay? And I'll tell you, there are things in my life that I'm not, or I'll just tell you that what do puppies, goldfish, marshmallows, the Arizona Cardinals have in common? Those are all things I am not afraid of. I'm not afraid, like a cardinal, like an actual bird, a cardinal. Not afraid of the cardinal bird. Okay, so just sorry, Cardinals. I'm not scared. I don't think the Rams are scared. And I think that, when I look back on the Cardinal games of last year, there was a game where Dan Arnold had that busted coverage against the Rams, scored a touchdown, like a really long touchdown. Rams recovered and won. Then the final game of the year, Wolford, first pass, interception, a few plays later, touchdown. Rams come back and won. There's no doubt here. The Cardinals don't scare the Rams. So I've been listening to a lot of the Locked On Cards podcasts, and nothing against those guys. Those guys seem like really nice guys, really good guys, know a lot, but definitely a little bit of homerism. I mean, I know you have to believe as a fan, but I mean, things that they said, and I respectfully disagree, but they said the 2 best players on the field in this game will be Murray and Hopkins. No. I mean, I'd probably say Murray and Stafford, but then also I'd say 3 of the 4 best players are Murray, Stafford, AD, and Jalen Ramsey. So come on, let's get real here. They said the Rams don't have any depth. Now, this is something I'm going to say for another episode, but I mean, really, this whole narrative that the Rams don't have any depth is ridiculous. The Rams lose players every year. They rarely sign any free agents. Leonard Floyd is pretty much the only notable free agent that they've signed since Andrew Whitworth, but they lose guys all the time, and they just fill the spots. They just keep filling the spots. So, I mean, and you could say that about any team. Do you think any roster out there is totally 100% complete with all pros, first string and second string in every position? Come on. The Cardinals, you think the Cardinals have a lot of depth? They don't even, look at their starters. They don't even have a lot of depth on their starters, especially in the secondary. So let's just be real here. I hear this argument from a lot of people that the Rams have no depth, that they're top heavy. But last year, they lost Andrew Whitworth, one of the best left tackles in the game, and Joe Noteboom stepped in, didn't miss a beat. So this thing is just BS. I'm not a fan of that. They also said that the Arizona wide receiver core is better than the Rams wide receiver core. And I mean, it's good. I mean, Rondale Moore is flashy, and Christian Kirk is emerging, and AJ Green he's productive, but he's not old school AJ Green, and D'Andre Hopkins. Yeah, but I mean, like, we can argue that a little bit. Now, I look at this matchup and I really it's really cool to see two top of their game quarterbacks in Kyler Murray and Stafford. I'm going to start with Kyler Murray here. And I think the takeaway from Kyler Murray this year is it looks like he's evolving into a better quarterback. Not just scramble guy, but actual, like, understanding the game more, making plays, I think, a little more evenly. He's not running as much. He's making the throws. I mean, when you have he has a better offensive line this year, and he has, more complete weapons, AJ Green and Rondale Moore, and the emergence of Christian Kirk. And so I think that we're really seeing an evolution of Kyler Murray. He's taking that next step. Now, what I've noticed against the Rams in recent memory is he gets frustrated. And it's not just against the Rams. Like you see last year when they started melting down, he was getting frustrated. And, the narrative was like, if you're the leader, you can't be like that. You can't be dejected and pouty, right? And also, we saw last year when Jalen Ramsey was locking down DeAndre Hopkins was getting pissed. And we've noticed this when it's like the same thing as DJ Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins a little bit. When they get pouty, Mike Evans, when they get pouty and they want the ball, and then the quarterback feels like he's got to force the ball in there, and that's when mistakes happen. That's when Jalen Ramsey, these guys get picks. So will they has he matured in that sense? I think he is maturing, but let's just see how what happens when he starts facing some real adversity, when they get behind, and if he throws a pick or fumbles, things that he's throwing incompletions. Let's really see how Kyler Murray responds. He's having a great year now. The rushing part I talked about. So far this year, in 3 games, he has 17 rushes for 70 yards and 3 touchdowns. Okay, so he's averaging about 6 carries per game. Now, last year, he had 133 carries for 819 yards and with like a 51 yards per game average. This year, he's averaging 23 yards per game rushing. So I think it's not so much teams are taking that away. I just think that he is being a better quarterback. He doesn't need to run and take off. He can, but it's not always the first option. It's not always first read doesn't work, I'm bailing, right? So, and that's one thing last year when teams held Kyler Murray under a certain threshold of rushing, the Cardinals lost. But this year they're winning without him rushing a lot. But there is that threat. There is that, there is a threat of him running, and teams have to respect that. So that he still brings that to the table. So he's on pace right now for approximately 100 carries, 420 yards, 17 touchdowns. That's a projection over 17 games. So still over 17 games, half the yardage, significantly less carries, but a lot of TDs. He's been scoring a lot of TDs on the ground. So I'm really interested to see how what the Rams do to contain Kyler Murray and make sure that this isn't a game where he does bust 51 yards rushing. Carson Wentz had a lot of yards rushing. The Rams were in the backfield a lot. I don't think they were really trying to contain Carson Wentz. They were just getting after him. But with Kyler Murray, I'm curious to see. That's like Leonard Floyd setting the edge and making sure that Kyler Murray can't scramble out, because that's what happens. The Rams have been, the wide receivers for the other teams are kind of going deep. They have this big cushion that leaves this big area of the field, and Kyler Murray, and that's where Kyler Murray can really exploit it. Now, he's also been really, really doing a good job in the intermediate to short area of the field for passing, especially over the middle, but also the play action out of shotgun. So play action out of shotgun, 10.6 yards per attempt with an 82% completion percentage. Again, that's second in the league behind the Ravens. So basically, shotgun, play action, over the middle, intermediate, short 10 yards, 82% completion rate. So that's kind of the bread and butter. I feel like the Rams need to stay disciplined and they can't bite on those play actions, and they need to guard the middle of the field. Now, conversely, the Rams have not been great on play action. Their defense has allowed 18 completions out of 23 attempts for almost 9 yards per attempt. So on play action. So the play action, I think, is really going to be interesting. So keep an eye out for that. See how the Cardinals run play action out of the shotgun, and see how if the Rams can stop them on those plays, right? So that's going to be really interesting. So, and he also, like I mentioned, he loves the middle of the field. He loves throwing to the middle of the field, and that's where Jalen Ramsey lives, right? I think Jalen Ramsey, I think this game, I don't think this is going to be Ramsey versus DeAndre Hopkins, because it's kind of like, I don't feel DeAndre Hopkins, he's a top receiver, but they have so many weapons. And last game, he didn't shadow Mike Evans, right? And, he just kind of stayed in the middle of the field with the action. I think that's going to be the big difference in this game. He will line up against DeAndre Hopkins sometimes, but it's not just going to be like, like on an island. So I think Ramsey's going to be in the middle of the field like he always has been, in the slot, in the star position. And he's going to be in the middle of action. He's going to be spying Kyler Murray. He's going to be guarding those short and intermediate throws. And it's great because Jalen Ramsey is so cerebral. And I think he'll be able to diagnose these things happening, these things that Kyler Murray wants to do. So I think that's going to be real interesting to see this chess match of not just Aaron Donald. I usually just watch Aaron Donald, but now I've been seeing more Jalen Ramsey because he's in the mix. He's he's not on an island on the top or the bottom of the screen where you don't really maybe see a receiver and a cornerback. So the Jalen Ramsey, how he keeps Kyler Murray in check and that little chess match is going to be really cool. Now, I think if you want to flip it now, I think I'm really looking at the difference between the two defenses, right? So we look at the Arizona offense and we're like, wow, okay, they have an upgraded offensive line. They have a lot of weapons. Kyler Murray is definitely a top 3, top 5 quarterback in this league. So on that end of things, they can be really good. But I'm not a believer in the defense. And the defense is young. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. I want to talk about the Rams defense against the Cardinals. Oops. So sorry about that, guys. The Rams defense is more disciplined than the Cardinals defense. The Rams defense, we're not worried about it. So I think the matchup of Rams defense versus Cardinals offense is a good matchup. I think Rams offense versus Cardinals defense is in the Rams' favor. Now, speaking of the Rams defense, Justin Hollins being out is a big deal, because now who do we have on the other edge? To me, it's Terrell Lewis time. But he's going to be on kind of a snap count, I'm assuming. They're not going to let him rip 70 snaps. There's no way. So who's going to be opposite of him? So Obo came off the 3-week IR, but is he going to be ready and primed to, play 30 snaps? We'll see. Chris Garrett has been activated. He hasn't played an NFL snap. Will he be ready? Will he be seeing action? So there's a lot of questions there with that rotation at the outside linebacker spot opposite of Leonard Floyd. Could Ernest Jones actually get some action there? That will be interesting to see, right? Will they, what other players will they rotate in there? I know they just picked up and signed Jameer Jones off of the Steelers, or the Steelers waived him, and he did really well in the preseason. I actually joked around on Twitter and said, I could just see the Rams signing this guy, and in 2 years he balls out. In 2 years, the Rams get a compensatory pick for him. So I'm really interested to see what the Rams do opposite Leonard Floyd and see how that snap count plays out, and see what other players that are linebackers, whether it's Traven Howard or whether it's Ernest Jones, Troy Reader, kind of how they fill that void right there and rotate guys in and out. Now, in terms of pressure on Kyler Murray, we know AD is going to do his thing, but I think blitzing, we're going to see a lot of blitz, because right now the Rams are 3rd in the NFL in terms of blitz rate, and in terms of blitzes at 43 blitzes. The Cardinals are 4th with 41 blitzes. So both teams like to blitz a lot. Last year the Rams didn't blitz that much. This year they're blitzing a lot. So we're going to see how that affects Kyler Murray. Let's see if that remains in the game plan, because there are a lot of weapons. He can get the ball out quick. He can run. So how will the Rams use the blitz to kind of confuse Kyler Murray? Now, in terms of, and in hurries, the Rams this year have 14 hurries. The Cardinals have 6 in terms of their defense hurrying. Now, also, this is going to be a test of their wide receivers versus our cornerbacks, right? So they have 4 legit wide receivers. Okay, they have Hopkins, they have Green, they have Kirk, and they have Moore, right? So we have Ramsey in the mix. We have D. Will. We have David Long. Who's the 4th guy? Is it Terrell Burgess? Is it Robert Rochelle? Rochelle has been, I think he has had an illness, so hopefully he's good to go. But I mean, this could be a game where we see a lot of Robert Rochelle, depending on the personnel packages and how many 4 wide receivers the Cardinals are sending out there. So that's going to be interesting to track. I'm not too worried about D. Will and David Long, but who's our 4th cornerback? And if Rochelle's ready to go, I think it's him. Okay, and then that's going to be a test of depth right there. And then also when it comes to the running game has been okay. I mean, our running game has been okay and pretty much the same. I mean, Chase Edmonds, John Connor pretty much have the same amount of yards as Hendo and Sony Michel. So I think it's kind of a wash in that regard. But at the same time, I mean, the Rams really haven't tried to run it. They don't have many attempts. They also played against very stout Buccaneers defense. So I think, that factors into it. So I think, I'm not afraid of Chase Edmonds and I'm not afraid of John Connor. The thing about Chase Edmonds, though, is when he catches balls out of the backfield. It's like I said about Kyler Murray. It's, if the Rams defense gives a soft cushion, the receivers all, kind of run deeper routes, then there's that kind of short intermediate area of the field that's going to be wide open for a Chase Edmonds dump off, a Kyler Murray run. These things that Gio Bernard did well and Naheem Hines did well. So I think, that's something to really keep in mind is Chase Edmonds as a receiver. I'm not worried too much about these guys actually running the ball, but it would be great if the Rams could really stop them and make them one-dimensional. And we'll see. We'll see how Kenny Young is doing. And I think Kenny Young is really going to step up and continue his ascension for the Rams now. Now let's go to the Rams offense and the Arizona defense. Now I think the Rams offense is, the cool thing about the Rams offense is that it is just explosive. We don't even know what we're going to get. I think for them it's infinite, it's limitless, the possibilities and everything that they can do. And it's so exciting. I mean, I feel like every time they get the ball, they can score a touchdown. Matthew Stafford is just on another level. The arm talent, the way he goes about thinking about things. And, the Rams offense is going to outclass the Arizona defense. It's that simple for me. Arizona defense is promising, but it's very young. Okay, Isaiah Simmons, Zaven Collins, those linebackers. I mean, I really like Isaiah Simmons. I think, he's in this new kind of hybrid safety linebacker league. I mean, he's a perfect player for that. Zaven Collins is going to be good, but I mean, they're young. They take the bait. This defense thrives on a lot of splash plays. But they're not very consistent. Their communication is an issue. So I have here splashy. An undisciplined communication is lacking, and flooding zones against them work because with the zone defense, it's a lot of communication. It's a lot of passing guys off. So if you flood a zone, you can really do that. And the Rams are a perfect team and a perfect offense to take advantage of that. The eye candy that they're going to give to those young linebackers, I think, just going to provide enough hesitation and trickery for them to take the bait. I think it's, they're going to see something, they're going to react, and it's not going to be the right thing, and then they're going to be a step behind. The stack and bunch formations that will switch all the time are going to confuse Arizona. And, the Rams offense is different. It's the number 1 offense in DVOA. It can do everything. It's not just a play action offense. It's not just a shotgun empty set offense. It's not a power running game. It's not just dink and dunk. It's all kinds of, like, every receiver can run every route except for Djax. The Woods, Kupp, and Van Jefferson can run every route on the route tree. And defenses have to expect that, and Stafford can make any throw. And this year, what really makes them difference, they used to be all about the play action with Goff, but now they're not so much the play action, right? Last year, remember the Achilles heel was running an empty backfield, especially against Miami. I mean, I still have nightmares about that. But the empties, 30 this year, they lead the league in empty sets with 36. Stafford is 26 for 35 with 350 yards and 4 TDs out of the empty. Now, last year, on an empty, they'd do an empty set, it'd be third down, and they just run a screen. We all know about the screens on third down, out of an empty especially. Now they're attacking deep with 7 step drops on an empty. Usually they do an empty. The defense is coming in, they're blitzing, but they'll run a 1-by-4 formation, leaving the tight end and running back near the line of scrimmage. And what that does is they chip as they go out. So you kind of get a little chip block, but also it reveals it's the tell for man versus zone. So they're able to diagnose the defense by doing that. Then the tight end and running back get a chip coming off the line. And then they'll overload, so like a 1-by-4. And so then they'll overload a zone on one side. And what it does is it just it's like basic coverage gives Stafford time to drop back and wide receivers that can find the soft spot. So, this is great because I think every week we're just seeing an evolution of this offense. Now, Byron Murphy's having a good season, but Robert Alford and Jalen Thompson don't really scare me. Not bad players, but they don't scare me. Budda Baker, to me, is the impact player of that defense. Yeah, Chris Jones is definitely a force, and him versus Whitworth is going to be really, really fun to watch. But to me, Budda Baker he's all over the field. And so for me, Budda Baker in that secondary, that's the one game changer on defense for the Cardinals that I'm really looking at. But it's those guys versus Kupp versus Woods versus Jefferson versus D-Jax. And so, I'll take – that's the thing. Every game the Rams roll into, do you have 4 cornerbacks, defensive backs? Do you have 3 that are better than our 3? So Arizona doesn't. They have some nice players, but it's not like that. And also Cooper Kupp. Like, what are you going to do against Cooper Kupp, really? He's the NFC Player of the Month. Not the week. It's not like he just had one good week. Of the month. The first month of the season, Cooper Kupp is the best player in the NFC. He's the best wide receiver in the game. He's better than any Arizona wide receiver. D'Andre Hopkins is a good receiver, but he's not the best receiver in this game. There's no doubt. This is Cooper Kupp's time. DeAndre Hopkins had his time. His time is over. Cooper Kupp is the man now. He's the king. And you just got to deal with that, Arizona. I'm sorry. And the thing is he ran a 4.640 at the combine. Cooper Kupp did. And he's the best receiver in football right now. So, just take everything you knew about football, and all you evaluators out there thought he would just be a glorified backup. And can he play? Does he know? And he's just amazing like that. In the first game, he was in the backfield. Or was it? No, it was against Indy. He lined up in the backfield. He leaked out, caught that touchdown. Last week, he lined up in the backfield, pulled his guy out, touchdown over on the other side to Tyler Higbee. So, they're just running circles around other teams' defenses, And if the Rams just put the smackdown on Tampa Bay, do you really think Arizona's defense is going to be any more stout, especially against the run? That's a no. That's a straight up no. They're not good against the run. Now, granted, they went up against the Titans with Derrick Henry and the Vikings with Dalvin Cook and the Jacksonville Jaguars with James Robinson. But, they're 27th in the NFL in terms of rushing yards allowed through 3 weeks with 422. That's 140 rushing yards they're giving up per game, where the Rams are 10th. They've given up 278 yards with 93 yards per game. And, Hendo and Sony Michel. So we don't know if Hendo's going to be active for this game, because just keep this in mind. After this game, there's a Thursday night game against Seattle. So, do you give him some more rest and make sure he's just ready to go, 4 or 5 days later? So that's something to consider. But, even Sony Michel. So the Rams will eclipse 100 yards rushing in this game if they want. Because, that's one thing the Rams haven't done. They haven't just said, hey, we're gonna have 33 carries this game, So will they? Will they have a balanced attack? Will they just bombs over Baghdad with Matthew Stafford? That's the fun part about this. But what I'm trying to say is, when people go, oh man, that elite run defense, no one says that when they say Cardinals. No one does. I think the St. Louis Cardinals actually have a better run defense than the Arizona Cardinals. Let's just call it what it is. So just a couple more things. Brian Allen, big shout out to Brian Allen. Matthew Stafford had some really cool things to say about him. he and Stafford are on the same page, and it's going to be like him and Corbett and Edwards versus J.J. Watt and Whitworth, like I said, against Chandler Jones, who has 5 sacks in one game, and in the last 2 games, no sacks. But I mean, hurries and pressures, those count too. Ramsey versus who's Jalen Ramsey going to cover? Buda Baker. And I think, honestly, one guy who's flown totally under the radar in terms of free agent acquisitions in the NFC West, and I think the best pickup, better than J.J. Watt, better than A.J. Green, and that is Matt Prater. Prater Tots. Now, Matt Prater pretty much won that game against Arizona because he made a 62-yarder. His time expired in the first half, and that was the difference in the game. So, I mean, before you go back last year, they've gone through kickers like Kleenex, man. So I think, honestly, Matt Prater, that's a guy now. Like before with the Cardinals, you're like, who's their kicker? Zane Gonzalez? I don't know. Who cares? They suck. But Matt Prater is really good. And going back to last week against Jacksonville, and this to me is the biggest reason why the Rams will win this game, it's because Kliff Kingsbury is the coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I have nothing against Kliff Kingsbury, but Kliff Kingsbury, he's not a better coach than Sean McVay. He makes some bonehead decisions. And last week he had Matt Prater go out there for a 67-yard field goal. Why are you sending him out there for a 67-yard field goal? He's not in Denver. The air is not thin. And he was well short of the field goal. And that was returned for a touchdown. If he just said, hey, let's kneel the ball, or let's just throw a bomb, I don't know. Let's just run out the clock. Then that game is not even close. But Kliff Kingsbury's like, oh yeah, Matt Prater, you'll do whatever you want. So anyways, Kliff Kingsbury, put tape on your nipples. You're not going to beat Sean McVay. This is going to be 9-0 or 5-0, McVay versus Kingsbury. And I have the Rams winning 34-24. 34-23. 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals for Arizona, and 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals for the Rams. And and this is, like I said at the beginning, they're going into SoFi Stadium. This is going to be very, very loud. Cardinal fans are not, they're not taking over any part of SoFi. So I think the Rams are just licking their chops, and they're really going to just lay it to the Cardinals. So anyways, that's what I got. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. You can follow me on all the other socials. Let me know if you're going to the game. Let me know who you think the key players are of this game. What do you think is going to happen? And as always, go Rams.